Good morning. I want to draw your attention to something that's in your bulletin this morning. It's an insert that says income and expenses year to date. If you haven't already looked at that, I encourage you to look at it. What comes up for you when you look at that? Uh-oh. Something comes up for you. Is it, oh my gosh, David's going to be talking about money today? Or, oh my God, what are we going to do? Look at the state of our affairs. There's something that comes up in you that speaks to fear or doubt or some anxiety maybe that comes up. Maybe there's some judgment that comes up. Maybe there's some guilt that comes up. I don't know. But any of that is natural. That's all I want to say. Any of that comes up for us is normal and natural. When I look at that, I have to admit that I can sometimes get into a little fear. I will own that. I don't live there. I don't make room at the table for it. I don't feed it. But sometimes it shows up. And so I want to just say that's normal. That comes up because that's part of our, as we talked about in our class last week, part of our biology, that when we see something or experience something that seems to be in any way a threat to us or a threat to our safety or security. Eric Butterworth talks about that in the book, Safety and Security, and how in our humanness we want that. We need safety and security, and that's normal and natural in anything that comes up. And so normally what happens when we have something that comes up that seems like a threat or a danger or lack or limitation that shows up in our lives, what do? Well, let's just talk specifically about this. We either rush out and try to find ways to get more money coming in, or we find ways to reduce expenses. And I'm not saying either one of those is bad. I mean, either one of those could be a very effective and maybe very necessary step to take. But what I want to talk about today a little bit is the consciousness from which we are doing what we're doing. If we're doing what we're doing out of fear or anxiety or that humanness that says, oh my gosh, how am I going to fix this? Then we are really restricting the flow of God, the flow of energy, the flow of life through us. We are holding on and we are restricting when we get into fear. So what I want to say today is whatever choices we make about what we do around this particular thing, I want us to do from spiritual perspective, our spiritual principle and our teaching. Because I want to encourage us always to go back to the spiritual principle and operate from our spiritual principle. Because when we do that, we are more open and receptive to the divine ideas that are all around us, that flow through us and to us and inspire us to do whatever is ours to do. And I believe that is how we want to live our lives. That's how we want to be in community together. And so this morning, I want to look at some of the, if I can get this to work, our human perspective. Might say that this is a challenge to be met. That we have a challenge and we've got to meet the challenge. But a more spiritual perspective, I think, would be, is an opportunity for growth and learning and connection. We can look at whatever's going on in our lives, either individually or collectively or as this spiritual community, as a challenge that we have to meet, or is it an opportunity for us to grow and learn and connect with each other? We can look at it as a problem to be solved. And I think a lot of times we do. It's a problem. We have to find a solution to the problem. And that really, to me, is coming from a place of limitation and fear. Or we could choose a more spiritual perspective and think of it as a possibility for something greater. It's a possibility. It gives us a potential. Or we can look at it as a limitation to be overcome. A limitation that we have to overcome, or we can look at it as a potential to be realized. So we can look at it as a challenge, or we can look at it as an opportunity. We can look at it as a problem, or we can look at it as potential. Do you see how the consciousness from which we view it changes how we feel about it and what we might do in response? If we're in that fearful place of the human thought and the human perspective, a lot of times what we do is react. We want to rush out and try to fix it. And nothing wrong with that necessarily, but when we come from that place of connection with a different consciousness, then we can respond with intention and clarity and spiritual principle. Not to say that what we do will necessarily be different. We may take the very same actions, or we may not, but if we do, we take them from a different perspective. So, when we find ourselves out here struggling, or there's any situation in our lives that we fear, that we get into fear about, what did Jesus teach us about that? He said, seek the kingdom. First, seek the kingdom. Where's the kingdom? Right here. The kingdom of God is within our own consciousness, at the center of our consciousness. The kingdom of God is that awareness of unity and oneness and the all-providing source. Butterworth talks about it being centered in the conscious awareness of the all-providing source. And when we come from that perspective, the possibilities and the potential and the opportunity for expressing that divine life is so much more expanded and greater. And so, as we look at this, as we were talking about this in class on Thursday night, and I think it was Christina said to me, as I'm up there teaching, well, how is the church doing with this? How is the church using these principles? And I was like, whoa, good question. Good question. Are we practicing these principles? As we look at our finances and the other things that we do, are we practicing the principles? Or are we getting into fear and anxiety and trying to fix things? And so I want to look at that a little bit with you this morning. From 3 different perspectives. I want to share with you something that has been going on in this community for probably close to 2 years. I think probably close to 2 years. We have been trying to figure out how to provide access for those who need help to access to the second floor. Because we don't have a lift, we don't have an elevator. Somebody gifted us with some money a while back, and part of that money was earmarked to go to do that, to provide a lift. Well, poor Sean Hollis has been struggling with the architect and getting a permit and the ordinances and all of these things that have been delaying getting that up, getting a chairlift installed on the stairway right down the hall. The fire department had to sign off on it, and we were like 1 inch away from getting the permit. And it was over and over and over again. And so were we looking at it, we could look at that as a challenge to be met. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to make this work? How are we going to struggle and make this work? Or we could look at it as an opportunity for growth and learning and connection, which really it ended up being. An opportunity for growth and learning and connection. What eventually happened with that is that Sean made a connection with someone, not even related directly to this process. Through his building that he owns and through his house and other things, he has those relationships. And to come to find out, what happened was that the rules changed, and so the fire department has to sign off on this. We don't have to get a sign off, right? Is that not right? Something like that. We don't have to comply with that because they are not responsible for that anymore. What this guy told Sean was that they don't come around with a tape measure anyway. And so we are now free to install a chairlift in that stairway at the end of the hallway so the children who need help getting upstairs can have access to our upstairs rooms. And so that's a major accomplishment, not only children, but adults as well. And I think it will be 4 to 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. But it's been going on for 2 years. Our original bid, I think, was in January of 2016. So I think it really is an example of a shift in consciousness. Were we struggling? Were we worrying? Were we trying to figure it out, trying to make it happen? And then it was just release, let go. Make the connections that show up. Speak when you're guided to speak to the person that you're guided to speak to. And watch what happens. It just unfolded in a way that we could not have begun to imagine. Secondly, I want to say, I want to talk a little bit about, this came up in our class too, we were talking about our building fund. That we have money set aside as a building fund to handle repairs that come up. We're talking about this being an older building. We have an older boiler. We have older air conditioning units. We have things that need to be fixed around here. We have a parking lot that needs to be fixed, and so we have money set aside for that. And what Butterworth was saying in the book is that don't save for a rainy day, because if you do, it's going to rain buckets. And so, does that mean we just go ahead and use all the building fund and spend it on other things? No. Not necessarily. But it does mean that we can have a different consciousness about the building fund. And I think it was Thea in the class on Thursday night. So how about if we look at our building fund as a possibility for something greater? For a more advanced and newer boiler system, newer air conditioning systems, a great parking lot that people are safe. And can we look at what we're doing as possibility and a shift of consciousness? So we have the money, we'll keep the money in that fund, but are we worried? Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? We need the money for that? No. We are choosing to look at that as an opportunity, a possibility to be spent on something greater, wonderful, expansive. See the shift of consciousness that happens when you think about things in a different way. It's just a small shift. And the last thing I want to talk about is directly related to what you see on this piece of paper. That we had a matching funds campaign in July and August, and you all showed up big time. We more than met our goal. Without you, that would not have been possible. Again, what is the consciousness of that? What is the consciousness of that? And as a community, what is the consciousness of that? Are we looking at that and looking at the budget and looking at our income and saying, oh my gosh, there's a shortfall, we've got to do something. It's a limitation, we've got to overcome that. Or are we looking at it as a potential to be realized? And what I want to say about that is, it is a potential. It is a potential, a possibility, and more than that, it is our opportunity to really show up in a big way. What I want to say to you this morning is that it is my vision for our community that we don't have to do matching fund campaigns anymore. My vision is that we recognize and realize the potential that we have to bring in enough money every week, every month, to more than meet our financial obligations. And I know that you all can do that. I know that we, as Cheryl was singing about, I believe in the power that we have to do that. And I appreciate the matching funds. I appreciate all of you who show up to do that, and I appreciate the intention behind that. But what I want to see us do is bring in enough money every week, every month, to more than meet our financial obligations, so that the money we raise through matching funds can be used to expand what we have, to improve our building, to expand our youth program, to do more things in the community so that we can get the message of unity out into the world. That is my vision for us. And I believe we can do that. I believe we can do that. Because I believe that you believe in this ministry, or you would not be here. I believe that you are committed to seeing this ministry thrive. And I believe that we together can hold the vision through the awareness that we have the potential. We are the potential to be the channels through which source flows into our own lives and into the life of this community. Through our tithes, through our offerings, through our gifts, through our time, through our talent, through our energy, that we are here and we have that potential. And it is a possibility for all of us. The possibilities are endless for what we can do together in this community, to reaching out to people who want this message, who need this message of hope and empowerment. And it is important that we do that with passion, with zeal, with commitment, and with our intention to support what we're doing here. And to do it from that consciousness, not of need and lack, but yes, I want to do this. I'm committed to this community. I want it to expand. I love unity. I love the message of unity. I love what we have to share in the world. And by God, I am going to be the channel through which that happens. That is the message. And I know that that is where you are. That is where your heart is. And I know that as you look at your own heart and your own divine guidance, that you will work to support this community in a very powerful way. Very powerful way. Because we are doing a great work. And we have a great vision. And we can have a bigger vision. We can have a higher vision for who we are and what we can do in the world. And I think I would love for us to come together and envision together, what are we here to do in the world? Why are we here? Why do we exist as a community? Is it just so we feel good coming together on Sunday morning? I don't think so. Is it just so we take classes and learn? That's important. That's important. But once we get it, it's ours to go out and share it with others. And so, what I would invite you to do with me is take this out of your bulletin, if you will. And below the financial information, there are some affirmations that I would like for us to say together as a community. Let us say together, we are committed to thriving, not just surviving. We are dedicated to sharing the empowering unity message with the world. We are steadfast in honoring our commitment to financial integrity. We value this community and are devoted to sustaining our spiritual home. We enthusiastically and zealously step up to support Unity Spiritual Center Denver by sharing our financial resources. We are faithful in knowing that God is our source. And our invitation, is that as you consider prayerfully your year-end giving, your giving plan for 2018, that you consider how much this spiritual center means to you and how much it can mean in the world. I think I'll take my jacket off now. And let me come down here. Because I don't want to be up here preaching at you. I don't want to be up here telling you. I want to be up here. I just want to be here as your spiritual leader and as your partner and as a part of this community, because I believe that we can do a mighty work together. I do believe that. We've done a lot together. You have done a lot together, and there's more. There's more for us to do. There's more for us to be. More for us to share in the world. And so I want us to catch that vision together. To catch the vision, the higher vision that Spirit, God, universe, source, whatever word you choose to call it, has for this community, this spiritual center. And then to use our power of imagination to visualize what that's going to look like. How can we step into that? And to make a plan, to actually put feet to our prayers, feet to our vision. I love that idea, pray, but pray with your feet moving. because it does require us to take action. And so I want you to know, again, I don't want to preach at you. I want to connect with you from my heart in love because I love you, or I wouldn't be here. And I love this community. And I know that the power of love is the strongest power in the universe. And I know that together, I believe in the power of you and me. And I believe that we can do a lot.